This is Brandon with Fleet Feet, and today we're going to be reviewing the Brooks Glycerin 22. This is a tried and true staple in the Brooks running line, and again, like I mentioned, it's on its 22nd version. It is considered the premium option to that of the Ghost and a max cushion daily trainer, and it is a neutral one. This is a shoe that's really meant to log a ton of miles in. It's very durable. It can really go the distance. It's just one of those workhorse type shoes. And it's really just been a fan favorite for so many Brooks runners over the years. But there's actually been some really big changes happening to the Glycerin line, and one of them is in the midsole, and we're gonna get into that a little bit later. But this shoe is definitely a lot different to that of the 21st version. The 22nd one comes in with a ton of updates. In the past with Brooks, there really was not that many neutral daily trainers. There was the Glycerin, which was more of a max cushion premium daily trainer, and then there was the Ghost, which was more of a standard and neutral daily trainer. But now Brooks has really began to innovate and develop their line and expand it, and they've got shoes like the Glycerin Max now, they've got the Ghost Max. So there's been a lot of deviation and just a lot of change that's happened with their lineup. And so it seems like there's maybe a bit of overlap in use case and in technology. So that's maybe something that Brooks should start to maybe figure out. It used to be that they just had the Glycerin and the Ghost, but now they've actually got a lot of different running shoes that are neutral daily trainers in their lineup. From my understanding of it, there is the Ghost and there is the Glycerin. The Ghost is going to have an elevated version to it, which is the Ghost Max, and the Glycerin is going to have an elevated version, which is the Glycerin Max. The Ghost Max is going to be a bit of a slower and more cushioned daily trainer, but just more of it, of the technology and foam that you see in the Brooks Ghost. But the Glycerin Max is actually more tailored toward performance and long runs, so it's going to be a bit of a faster and peppier shoe, and it's going to have a more premium feel on foot, and it's going to use more premium technology. But enough about the lineup and history of Brooks running shoes. Let's just deep dive into all of this and talk a little bit about the Glycerin. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps to support us as we're putting out new videos. The upper of the shoe is actually made up of a double jacquard knit upper, so it actually has not one, but two layers in here, which, as you can imagine, actually makes for a more plush and comfortable and more locked down fit of an upper, but it actually isn't as breathable. Now, Brooks is actually known for making thicker and more warm uppers, and the tongue is very plush, and so is the heel collar, so just a lot of padding around those areas. So if you are looking for a shoe to run in when it's a little bit colder out, this one is gonna work really well. One other thing to note is that the tongue isn't gusseted, but it seems like there wasn't really too many issues with fit and lockdown. I didn't have any, and the rest of our team didn't really have any either. But everyone's foot shape is going to be a little bit different, and therefore your foot is going to be a bit different from mine, and therefore it's going to fit differently in this shoe. So if it's going to work best for you, I'm not entirely sure. You're just going to have to go into a local Fleet Feet store, go get your foot scanned through the 3D imaging process, and go through the outfitting experience, and they'll be able to tell you whether this shoe or another shoe is going to fit best for you. Now let's move on to the midsole, and this is where things get really exciting because the midsole has gone through quite a few changes. The big update and change in the midsole here is a new nitrogen infused foam. They moved away from DNA Loft, and they've actually moved into another foam called DNA Tuned. And if that rings a bell to you, that makes sense because it's the same foam that you can find in the Glycerin Max. And for those who know a thing or two about the Glycerin Max, it got really high ratings and remarks from our team. Max found it to be one of the best running shoes of 2024, and now some of that technology has trickled down into this. And one of the most interesting things about the development of this midsole is actually how they put it together and tuned and dialed in some of the cells in the shoe. So the midsole is actually made up of all these little air cells that go throughout the shoe. And the engineers at Brooks decided that, well, in the heel, we want a bit more of a plush ride. So they're going to make larger cells that have more air bubbles and air units in it. And so you're going to get a more plush landing in the heel, but these air cells and bubbles in the toe are going to be somewhat smaller, and so you're going to get a more responsive ride. So overall, you're just going to get a really nice smooth transition from soft to fast and firm and responsive as you run through this shoe. The drop of the shoe comes in at 10 millimeters with 38 in the heel and 28 in the toe, so there is quite a bit of stack to this one. Moving on to the outsole has quite a wide base compared to the upper. It flares out quite a bit, so you are going to get a very stable ride out of this shoe, and the lugs here are very thick, so you are going to get some really nice rubber traction. I didn't have any issues when I was cornering or picking up the pace in this shoe, and the tread here really didn't show that much noticeable wear. This is the women's one, the men's one I've got, and I absolutely love it, and I've been running a ton of miles in it. From a ride and performance perspective, I gotta say, this might be one of my favorite Brooks shoes yet. And the general consensus from the Fleet Feet review team and myself is that this shoe is very soft, it's well cushioned, but what it lacks is energy return. Though the Glycerin Max isn't necessarily meant to be a fast and peppy ride, the DNA tuned, the way that it's sort of put together and formulated, it's just more on the soft and cushion side, and it's more of a max cushion feel or a max cushion ride similar to that of the Nimbus, but you're not gonna get that fast or peppy energetic ride that you would get in a carbon plated race day shoe or a super shoe or even a speed day shoe. But one thing that I will say about this shoe is that this shoe does have more energy return than that of the previous model, and that's thanks to the new midsole, which I think has been a huge improvement from the previous one. The DNA tuned is maybe my favorite adjustment that they've put in this shoe, and I gotta say that it just makes sense. Brooks was due for a new foam, and I'm glad that they innovated in the right direction with this one. And similar to that of the 21st model, the 22nd again feels like it can go the distance. It's quite durable, and I had no issues when I was putting a lot of miles in it. My foot felt very protected. And one of our reviewers, Kate, definitely enjoyed this one too. She felt like it really just came in clutch when her legs were feeling a bit sluggish or she was feeling a bit slow. And it just had that nice balance that she was looking for in a shoe, and it wasn't too unstable. It had a nice structure to it. The shoe comes in at 10.2 ounces or 289 grams for the men's model, and 9.1 ounces or 257 grams for the women's model. And the shoe comes in at $165, which is similar to other max cushion daily trainers that are out there right now. And if you want to check this shoe out for yourself, you can walk into your local Fleet Feet store or shop it online at fleetfeet.com. And if you want to hear even more reviews from Brooks or other shoe reviews in general that we have, you can check them out right here on YouTube. And if you want to request a video for yourself or a topic that you're interested in, leave that in the comments below and we'll be sure to get back to you.